Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin our session. My name is Hanjung. I'm really delighted to moderate this last session. But it's very important one, the issues we are going to address. And the topic in this session, Trans-Pacific Partnership without the United States, and then Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, Rcep, and the China-Japan-Korea Free Trade Agreement. What sort of the outlook we can expect, and what kind of the challenging issues we face. This is very, very important issues in the emerging East Asian regionalism, for the matter, anti-Asia Pacific economy. We have truly a distinguished panel members, and I would like to introduce one by one in alphabetic orders. Whenever I call panelists, please give a big hands. First, Professor Ansea is professor at Seogang University and leading the trade and industrial economists in Korea. Recently, he served as chair of the National Research Council for Economics, Humanities, and Social Sciences to cover about the 24 national think tanks. And prior to joining the professorship at Seogang University, he served a key government post, which dealt with Korea's trade and industrial policy issues, and also other economic integration. And then second, Mr. Bradley Bucklewater.
Hello, everybody. My pleasure.
Now, currently he's president and general manager, Johnson Control Korea. I'm really delighted for us to have him. He's very, very busy man because his company is merging in another one, and he just squeezed his time to fly over just 1 hour ago. And he served many key posts as CEO of multinational companies operating in Korea, including the ADT and the Otis Elevator. He received his MBA in finance at the Korean University. He is very fluent in Korean. He's been in Korea about 24 years. He's
24 years.
Yeah, half Korean. He's going to deliver, his views on what's going on the real business people, The rest of us are all the academics, and also we have a distinguished diplomat. So I'm really delighted, for us to have him. And let me see how the third speaker. Here's Professor, let me see, given Professor Wang Dong. Let me tell you this, actually the president of the Pangol Institution originally scheduled to serve as a panel member, but he participated in a morning program, but at the moment he doesn't feel very well. So instead, we have another distinguished professor from a Pangol delegation, Professor Wang Dong, and who is actually Secretary General of the Academic Committee of Pangol Institution. Pangol Institution in China is emerging very rapidly as most influential, the think tank in China to reflect their views on Chinese policy-making process. He is an international political scientist and received his the PhD from UCLA. He has written very extensively on the China-U.S. relationship. So his background is very fitting to our overall topic. And then my good friend, Ambassador Vikram Doraiswamy, and Indian Ambassador to Korea, Ambassador Doraisamy developed a really brilliant, diplomatic career. Most notably, he served 4 years India's embassy in Beijing, so he knows what's going on in the Beijing's economic development and many the policy issues. Before being posted to the Korean ambassador, he served as ambassador, Indian ambassador to Uzbekistan. Am I correct? Yeah. And he's very fluent in Chinese, and also, what other language?
Well, I speak French and now.
Yeah. And now he's learning, Korean. He speaks very good Korean, and whenever I call him, he immediately responds, "안녕하십니까?" Okay, I'm so delighted given this, the background. And finally, not least, we have a Professor Yorojimi Watanabe, and actually who built his career as a trade negotiator in the Japanese, the foreign service. He was a chief negotiator to iron out a Japan-Mexico free trade agreement. And so he's really expert on Japanese trade as well as industrial policy. He joined the Jeju University since 2005, and he is really the expert on the Japan's policy on the international trade and industrial investment issues. He also involved in the APEC process. So, with the background of our distinguished panelists, I think everybody is really good. And briefly introducing myself, I used to be a professor of economics at Kyunghang University. I served as president of the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, and also serving as foreign investment ombudsman. And now, at the moment, I'm chairman of the Korea Commission for Corporate Partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, I think during the election campaign, Mr. Donald Trump, throughout a series of trade policy issues, when I heard it seemed to be very controversial, and he said, okay, he's ready to even pull out of this NAFTA agreement. Maybe, should renegotiate the NAFTA. And then he also commented that, okay, U.S. must scrap for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. And then further he commented on that this Korea-U.S. FTA is really bad deal. All those free trade deals ripped off American workers, the interest and American workers' well-being, so on. So I thought that he's just throwing out a political, campaign rhetoric. But to my surprise, after he became president and he made an executive order to pull out, for the U.S. to pull out of the TPP, it has, I think, the enormous ramification of the countries involved. Actually, we studied 12 nations, especially for Japan. And then he further, commented on even Korea-U.S. FTA, okay, must be renegotiated. So every country in Asia Pacific got the appalled, and what is truly the intention of Donald Trump is the United States is returning to new protectionism, although the world is searching for more liberalized global trading system. So in this regard, I think he raised fundamental issues. So this session is going to address, okay, are we really returning to protectionism, or this is just a temporary phenomenon? Maybe Mr. Trump might beg to support ongoing the multilateral or the regionalism in favor of the U.S. interest. So this is the question we are going to address. And then second question, okay, what's going to be the future outlook of TPP? Well, TPP without the U.S. will proceed, 11 nations, or maybe inviting some other members, or TPP is completely dead. Okay, that's the question we have to address. And then what's going to happen to regional comprehensive economic partnership? Okay, India is going to fill in, and China is going to play what sort of the leadership. China at the moment is very busy to push it through the One Belt, One Road policy, through the financial schemes of AIIB, okay, where China is, placing itself in pushing East Asian, regionalism. And then what role big economies in the Asia-Pacific can play, like the United States, China, and Japan, and middle, powers like the India, Australia, and Korea, to push the East Asian, regionalism, so on. So many people saying that 21st century is Asian century, given the fact that rapidly rising, Chinese and the Indian economy, and of course Japan maintains the status of the now third largest economy, and Korea also will continue, Australia, New Zealand. So we can see the dynamic and the vibrant the Asian economy and Pacific economy. So U.S. linkage with this affluent Asia is very, very critical to even ensure the job opportunities and to utilize ongoing, the global supply chain and so forth. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask each panelist to reflect their views. Okay, is Mr. Trump is really, turning around a global trade tied into protectionism? If so, how long will it go? Then what's going to happen with multilateralism? Okay, very general questions. Let me start with this, maybe Professor Watanabe, and Japan really very much disappointed at the TPP. You see, it became scrapped by the U.S. Okay? So could you, give a general view, and the TPP is going to, survive without even the U.S. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr.
I'll give you about,
at the outset,
three minutes. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. 3 minutes is a little too tight for me, but anyway, I'll try, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you very much. At the outset, I should like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this forum, and it's a great privilege for me to hear. So, I have been asked a couple of questions by Mr. Chairman of this session, and the first question was about the TPP-1 and what could be the reaction of Japan and Japanese government as well as Japanese economic stakeholders. I would like to say that TPP for Japan is a logical consequence of Japan's FTA EPA policy that has been negotiated and implemented since the beginning of the 21st century. It is certainly regrettable that the U.S., the main component of the agreement, has withdrawn and decided to stay outside of the outstanding 21st century trade architecture that the 12 countries together previously materialized. It is a big loss, certainly, for the remaining 11 countries, as they all lost the main market for their manufactured products that they all could have enjoyed preferential access with the TPP. It is appropriate, however, to mention that TPP-1, it's a big one, and TPP- United States, still holds significant importance, as it is the main machinery to reduce the negative effects of the non-tariff barriers among the 11 countries, despite the fact that they missed the positive impact of tariff trade barriers among the 11, despite the fact that they missed the positive impact of tariff elimination on the products entering into the U.S. market in case if the U.S. remain within the agreement. Japan is now determined, together with some other TPP participants, such as Australia and New Zealand, to go ahead with the possible coming into force of the TPP agreement, even without the United States membership, as being indicated during the ministerial meeting held in Hanoi as a side event to the APEC trade ministers meeting over the weekend of 20 and 21st May. Coming back to your question about Mr. Trump's trade policy, whether it is counterproductive or not, that was a question that you have emailed to me, and I'd like to just give a quick reply to that. President Trump's trade policy is certainly counterproductive, even for the United States interests, as it is strongly biased by the bilateral trade in manufacturing industries, despite the fact that the comparative advantage of the United States lies with its agriculture and also its services industries. The U.S. manufacturing industries could survive only when they are connected to their suppliers abroad through the production networks and the FTAs to connect them to the U.S. market. Mr. Trump's bilateral approach in general simply does not fit into the reality of the worldwide supply chains and the logic of contemporary division of labor. It seems that President Trump's policy orientation has been based on his desire to wipe out the legacy of his predecessor, Mr. Obama. The TPP, the Obamacare, and the Paris Treaty on global warming are the obvious examples. President Trump did not put an end to the Obamacare, as his fellow Republicans could not go along with him, and his opposition to the Paris Treaty on CO2 have been sharply criticized by Western leaders at the G7 summit and also aftermath of today's declaration that the U.S. has decided to withdraw itself from Paris Treaty as well. So likewise, the withdrawal from the TPP by the presidential executive order shall be contested by the U.S. business stakeholders in not so distant future. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You provided a Japanese this strategy given the sort of the Mr. Trump's protectionist stance. And then let me go back to the President. Okay, he's a man of action in the business field. And do you agree with this, Professor Watanabe's point of view?
I can't say I agree 100%, but I have maybe a different viewpoint. First of all, I think I'm a typical person of the silent majority as an American, that trying to work hard and compete in various foreign countries to do business, and we've been left out blowing in the wind without strong advocates. And frankly, I'm not a really political person. In fact, I did not vote at all. But I strongly support Mr. Trump and what he's trying to do. And what's in the press about what you read every day on CNN and even NBC, you can't believe a word of what it's saying, because they're trying to destroy Trump because he's trying to change the agenda. And so if you read behind what he's trying to do and his policies and look at it just clearly what he's trying to do, from a typical businessman like myself, I've been in business 25 years, we feel there's somebody on our side that's going to help us. So, for example, when Vice President Pence was in Korea, he was here 2 months ago. I know it's on Mr. Trump's agenda to come here. In 2012, there was the Chorus FTA. I was a member of the AmCham Board of Governors for 8 years. Frankly, I feel I was part of getting the Chorus FTA passed and in Korea. And I think it was a huge improvement of the past. However, I was quite surprised to hear what Vice President Pence had to say. It's a complete disaster, as Donald Trump uses those words a lot, because the trade deficit with Korea went from $12 billion to $27 billion in 5 years. And You know, the numbers are the numbers. And as a typical businessman and not a politician, I think Donald Trump wants to be a man of action that measures himself on the numbers. That's his P&L. That's his profit and loss statement that he's going to try to fix. And frankly, Korea at 27 billion trade deficit is very small. Japan, a good country, has a trade deficit with the United States of 65 billion, which is peanuts compared to China, which is $350 billion. And who's paying for all of this? Because the United States has no more factories, and all the factories have moved to another country, and the U.S. is only importing. So what Donald Trump is trying to do is trying to make an even playing field for guys like me to compete like all the foreign companies do in the United States. So if you notice the G7 meetings, when Donald Trump was talking with Merkel from Germany, he's pretty much saying that they're abusing Americans because Americans can sell no products in Germany while Mercedes-Benz and BMWs are the most popular cars in the United States, and asking for a fair playing ground. And that's his agenda, and he's making it very clear. He's not a good politician. He made everyone upset. They're all bad-mouthing him. The press is going crazy. But the businessmen behind, like me, are go for it. You know, we want to sell more products in Germany. And Professor Ahn mentioned I'm running Johnson Controls now. We're a merger between Tyco and Johnson Controls. We sell products in buildings, air conditioners, control systems for the lights, fire alarms, fire sprinklers, security. I find it very interesting. On any product that we manufacture in Korea, our market share is around 25-30%. If we import on anything imported into Korea, our market share is less than 2%. So when the guys did the FTA, I'm sure it helped some industries to bring their products into Korea and to help the everyday consumer to buy great products at low prices. And by the way, my company is #1 market share in the U.S. on all those product lines. Frankly, there are areas of improvement. And my way as a businessman isn't to go to the government and try to help me. I'm going to do the opposite. Those imported products, I'm going to manufacture in Korea and bring my market share up. That's the way I work. By the time I fix the trade agreements, it'll be time for me to retire. However, you know, the United States will never close its doors to import products. I grew up in Southern California, where every product around the globe. If you walk into a supermarket, you can buy ramen noodles from Japan. You can get anything from any beers from Mexico. I mean, it's all there. And by the way, it's all cheap, very cheap. And so when Donald Trump says this, everyone attacks. But if his agenda gets implemented, I would say in a country like Korea, the only people who should feel threat are the J-Bol, because they like to close the market so they can sell mid-range quality for high prices. But when the trade barriers come down, you get all the world-class products at lower prices, the consumer wins. And maybe the upper-class J-Bol, the high companies, they may not make as much money. So I see, even though Mr. Trump may not be popular and people like to badmouth him and they pile on him what he says, that's what he's trying to do. He's not trying to close the U.S. market. He's trying to open up markets like China, like Japan and Korea and others, to make it open for business, just like the United States is to other countries. That's my view.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our session is going to be very interesting and exciting. Okay, given his comment, let me invite this, An Se-young. And I think, do you believe Trump is what the perceived, the convinced protectionist, but Brady is saying, nothing. What is your view on this?
First of all, it's my great honor to be next to President strong support of Donald Trump. So actually, I think in the United States there are two kinds of protectionists: political protectionist and convinced protectionist. Historically, during presidential campaign, every candidate showed a negative attitude toward the NAFTA, Korea-US FTA, but once step into White House, dramatically change their attitude toward NAFTA. For example, prime example is Barack Obama. during presidential campaign, he told Korea-US FTA is so bad FTA, but once elected, Trump changed his attitude. He strongly supported US-Korea FTA. Also, Bill Clinton same negative attitude during presidential campaign and finally supported FTA. But Mr. Trump is very different. So, for political protectionists, so what they told during presidential campaign and what they actually did in the White House was different. But Mr. Donald Trump is doing what he told during presidential campaign. Yesterday he announced the United States will withdraw Paris Climate Agreement. It's great. So, let me ask you, why does he have so negative perception, attitude, FTA? So as an economist, I like to call him is that there are multiple effects of TPP. So expansion of trade volume between member countries, economic growth effect, supply chain management, promotion of foreign investment. But fortunately or unfortunately, President Trump is focusing on only trade deficit. His philosophy as a president of the United States is very simple. So any country who are enjoying trade surplus, so China, Japan, Korea, from is U.S. American job killer, I think. So such kind of philosophy for U.S. trade policy. So in order to more effectively understand U.S. trade policy in the future, we must realize that there is a dramatic change in U.S. trade policy making mechanism. Historically, U.S. trade policy was configured by hegemony game, power game among Washington consensus and popular consensus. Of Washington consensus is like that trade export, trade officials in USTR, trade export in think tanks, heritage briefings, Peterson IIE, CIS. And the popular consensus is so-called angry white Americans supported Donald Trump. In the past, Washington consensus did override the popular consensus. But as I mentioned, nowadays, popular consensus is overriding Washington consensus. So yesterday in Pittsburgh, when he was announcing withdrawal of Paris climate change, he told them exactly that I was elected as president of the United States. I'm citizens of Pittsburgh, not citizens of Paris. I don't want to mention about that. And so as Chairman mentioned, what is the future of TPP without the United States? Here I want to raise three questions. First one is, what will be happening in Asia-Pacific economic integration without U.S. participation? Second one is that either 11 TPP remaining member countries will be able to move forward without the United States, either by leadership of Japan or by inviting China and Korea. Last one is that will the Rcep will be accelerate during under strong Chinese leadership? As an economist, I am very skeptical on all of these questions. I am strongly convinced that TPP will not be able to move forward without the United States participation. There are so many reasons. Second one, China may slightly increase its leadership in Asia-Pacific economic integration, particularly Rcep, but very limited role, not so critical.
Okay. And Professor, we want to move on, that topic later on, okay, a little bit further. Mr. Vikram Doran, India economy is growing at the moment the highest rate in the world, right? And it's becoming very much trade-oriented economy. I know that your trade volume used to be account for 2.5% of the total GDP, but India is aiming to reach about 3.6 or something like that of the global trade volume. I think that is really a heck of an increase, and then India should go forward trade liberalization at the moment. Okay, how you see the ongoing, the Turkism in the Asia-Pacific economy? India is happy about it, and India is indifferent. And what sort of the trade policy is India is going to, take? Okay? Yeah, India's position now.
Thank you, Professor. Difficult questions. We should be expected from you. Sorry. Basically, you're absolutely right. I mean, for a long time we've underwhelmed as a trading economy. But if you look at today's India, essentially, depending on currency calculations of the day, anything between 46 and 52% of our GDP now comes from the external sector. So that includes our dependence on the outside world. But yet, our current trade is less than about 2.5% of the global trade. Our new trade policy statement essentially aims to increase exports to around $450 billion, which is still a modest amount when you compare the exports of any of the nationalities represented on this panel. Of which would essentially mean our total exports would go up to about 3.5% of the world's export sort of trade basket. There are challenges for us to get there. First of all, manufacture is poorly developed in India. It is patchy and it is not extensively developed across the board. It counts for about 16.5% of GDP, national GDP. We've had poor outcomes from most of our other free trade agreements, which essentially seek on a one-sided basis to open up goods without necessarily giving us much gets in terms of the other two baskets, typically investments and services. We have major domestic sort of shortfalls, in particular in things like logistics. Logistics is a major challenge. It makes the efficiency of trade a major problem. There are shortages of efficient doses of capital. Our Exim Bank, ECGC, which is the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, are short of money. So they don't actually have the funds to be able to essentially make exports as competitive as our partners in China, Korea, and other major trading economies can do. And of course, there are complications that we face in terms of the truth being that, well, everybody talks about free trade. The reality is that free trade is free only insofar as, for any country, insofar as you have a particular set of things that you're interested in. So ATBs become a problem, social issues become a problem. It's essentially extremely difficult to be a new entrant into the global trading system. And I think the only big country that has successfully done that is actually China. Looking ahead, I think obviously, as I suggested in the panel that I was speaking in yesterday, there is a major concern for us if deglobalization is the way forward. Quite honestly, from our point of view, it would be extraordinarily bad luck and bad timing because it narrows the margin for us to also use globalization as a means of bringing the remaining 200 million Indians who still live under conditions of significant poverty. From our point of view, being able to have greater openness to trade in goods as well as trade in services and for better flows of investment is critical. So obviously we share the same perspective on this. And since you said I should speak initially for the first 3 minutes, I'll just end with one quick comment here, which is largely on a lighter note. Obviously, we do want to see more openness to trade and more fair trading systems. And I'll reserve comments on the Rcep for the segment when you ask the next question. But insofar as joining trading clubs is concerned, I'm only reminded of one of my favorite American philosophers, if I may call him that, Groucho Marx, who once said to a club, "Gentlemen, I resign from your club. I refuse to be part of a club that will have me as a member." Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Wang, U.S. pulled out of the TPP, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that this if Trans-Pacific Partnership, had a robust progress, and China very actively pushed the Rcep, right? But now, in the absence of the U.S. leadership in TPP, maybe China might lose. Okay, it's still to push Rcep. That's the first question. And second question, and President Xi Jinping, declared very clearly China is going to write a new trade rules, even at the approaching the WTO process, something like that. And but many experts outside believe that China at the moment is very busy to work on the One Belt, One Road policy, with expanding the role of the AIIB and turning away from the Rcep development. Okay, how would you like to comment on China's leadership writing even new trade rules instead of the United States? U.S. used to claim that the champion of the liberalism throughout the entire recent human history. But China still under socialist legacy. You think that you can do that? Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Han, for the answering two questions. And also, first of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Jeju-Forum Organizer and East Asia Foundation for inviting us to be here. It is truly a privilege and honor to be at this distinguished forum and these distinguished panelists here. I only got 3 minutes, so I have to be very brief. Let me begin by saying that initially, I think when the TPP negotiations first were proposed, there's quite a lot of suspicion, reservation back in China. Many people actually look at rather the American strategic efforts of sort of encircling China, trying to exclude China from this new kind of trade pact. But then after some time, I think the tone, policy debate discussion, the tone of that actually changed a bit back in China. So a few years ago, actually, later on, Chinese leaders, including Premier Li Keqiang himself, also publicly declared that TPP and Rcep actually are the quote-unquote two wheels of a vehicle, which should actually sort of run in tandem instead of should be viewed as a conflictual to each other. So I would argue that, responding to your question, I would argue that over time, the Chinese attitude toward TPP actually also has changed. If you look at more, I think TPP, at least I think from the policy makers, the senior leaders' point of view, they are more sort of rational and more, not as worried as the initial reaction in the public discussion would suggest. And now the interesting question, of course, with the United States go out of TPP, and what's China's attitude would be like toward TPP. And I think reportedly there's also an invitation coming from I think Japan, Australia, and also our ambassador here from New Zealand. They also would like China to play a more proactive role in participating, if not participating, but also just come and take a look and then try to get to a feeling about what this negotiation really is about. So the most recent round of meetings of TPP, which was held in Chile, I think China was invited, and in fact I think South Korea was also invited. South Korea was is also not part of the TPP, members of the TPP agreement. So I would say that, generally speaking, as Ambassador we also mentioned a very important keyword, which is the so-called trend of globalization. This is something I think it's truly behind what we are going to discuss today. But I think the Chinese leaders' attitude for that, as represented by President Xi Jinping, is a very important speech back in January in Davos, when he declared China's very firm support for continued support for economic globalization, and I think the Chinese leadership has made it very clear. China don't believe the deglobalization plans represents the trend of the wood. Yes, we are facing a lot of difficulties, including protectionism. But China's, I think, attitude is very clear. We are firmly opposing to the practices of trade protectionism, and we're a very strong supporter of the global free trade system. So, as for future attitude toward TPP, I think the possibility of China participating at some point, someday, cannot be completely ruled out. But I think probably we have to wait for the Party Congress this year to really take place and for the new generations of leadership to come in, and then the moment, I think, for a new round of reforms and everything, I think I expect will get accelerated. And therefore, in that regard, I think China will take a more proactive attitude toward RCEP and possibly as well. And I actually saw that the title, another very important subject matter in today's discussion, which is the China, Japan, South Korea free trade agreement. But yeah, we probably will get on to that later on. But I think China is also very much for that.
Okay, Professor Wang, since you mentioned that China is really pushing, trade liberalism of their point, then let me ask, this very candid question. In recent months, Korean products, especially manufactured by the Lotte company, suffered a lot. Okay, the entering the Chinese market, and the Korean newspaper reported that it's been intentionally, prohibited and banned, and the Chinese tourists coming to Korea also, somehow indirectly, discouraged. So, what is your view on this? I mean, as an economist, it's violation of the free trade diplomacy, as you emphasize, China is working for a long-term definite direction.
Thank you. I think actually I was sitting through the last one. I think the panel we had, which actually had a lot of discussion regarding that, and also the first panel as well. So I think that, as we all know very clear, part of this problem really comes from the disagreement or tension over the deployment of South system. But from an economic or policy point of view, I think, let me make one very clear here. There is no official so-called economic sanction against South Korea, imposed by Chinese government. And if we look very closely at what really happened, I think as I think Mr. Yong already mentioned in his remarks in the first panel, there are a lot of Chinese, the public spontaneous emotions, people's anger, things going on. China government didn't go out and encourage you should do that, you should do that. People took to those actions. And of course, the government has to take that into account as well. I think what really is happening is that there was no official central policy toward Korea. This is very important to emphasize. And what happened regarding Lotte, and as far as I know, there has been, of course, regulations, enforcement of regulations, including sanitation and everything. And to be honest, I think every enterprises operating in China, including Chinese companies, will have to abide by, comply with those rules and regulations. But if they didn't, then they have to feel the consequences, right? So this is, I think, also, I think, sort of real world of doing business we should be operating. So let me get to this. I think it is that, of course, business and politics always are very closely related. You can never separate one from another. But one thing I sort of draw from the first panel's discussion I learned really is that while we have differences, disagreement, it is all the more important for us to try to be pragmatic and to be mutual understanding for each other, and also take each other's interests into account and find a common ground. And I'm more confident that our economic ties there will be a great prospect for us to expand.
Okay, I'm very happy to hear your views, and we academics work together to separate the security issues from trade linkage. We are ever increasingly interdependent each other. Professor Watanabe.
Yes.
Now Japan is working very hard along with Australia and China, even without the U.S. membership, to push TPP. Do you think it will have some, significant implications, or how serious, Japan is that to push, TPP minus the U.S.? You think it's going to be materialized pretty soon, and what is time frame for that?
Well, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to clarify a little bit about what is meant by TPP minus one or TPP minus United States. I think it's quite understood that it's not a renegotiation of TPP package. See, so what the like-minded countries trying to modify is perhaps the article to deal with coming into force of this agreement. Because it says in the present text that there should be at least 6 countries out of 12, and the total GDP of those 6 countries should over 85% of the total GDP of the 12 countries. And the United States alone have slightly above 60% of the 12 country GDP total of TPP participating countries, and Japan has got 16%. So neither United States nor Japan, cannot withdraw if they want to realize this TPP. Now the United States being withdrawn, so it's automatically stops this procedure of coming into force. So bearing in mind that the agreement that we reached in October 2015, and that was signed in February 2016, quite worthwhile. And it's a very ambitious sort of package, not only market access improvements in terms of duty eliminations, but also rule makings, a lot of rule makings. And we should not forget that since the end of Uruguay round negotiations, that was in 1994, there was no multilateral agreement came into force, with simple exception of trade facilitation agreement. So that means yes, certainly. So that means that this results of TPP could have introduced kind of template for future international trade regime. Certainly for overwhelming overwhelming framework of WTO. So in that sense, I think it is sensible to keep alive what we have achieved as agreement. And therefore, the first thing is that we are not opening up all the Pandora's box, you see. So we keep it. Only modifying maybe the provisions dealing with coming into force. So we keep the results of market access negotiations as well as rule-making negotiations. We keep them as they are. Otherwise, it will be extremely difficult for the United States to come back if we have new agreement, if we have any additional new members. So for the time being, I think it is wiser and sensible that we keep it in that way. So while waiting for the United States to come back. So, we should be very carefully looking at what kind of timing this Japan's determination to go ahead with TPP-1 should go ahead. That was right after Mr. Aso, who is the Vice Prime Minister of Japan, and Mr. Pence, the Vice President, met on the 18th April. And right after, this newspaper article came out saying that Japan would be determined to go ahead with TPP-1. So that implies that there was a perfect sort of understanding between Washington and Tokyo that it will never offend the United States. It will never create any new obstacles for the United States to come back. So that's a kind of the procedures that we have been seeing. It's been carefully, designed to go ahead like this.
Hey, really, as you heard, okay, Asian countries are really anxiously waiting for the U.S. return to TPP. Now, let me ask this question. Donald Trump, his career, if you look at, really developer, and if I understand that, although Trump said, okay, pulling out of the TPP, but he's trying to eventually maximize the U.S. stable interest, by revisiting TPP, or is it his a practitioner's policy, business deal makers, stance on the international trade relationship or whatever?
Okay. Let me give my view on the situation. I think people try to make things too complicated when they try to analyze Mr. Trump. When he was getting elected, he made a lot of promises. He promised to, he also called NAFTA a disaster and TPP a disaster. And he's trying to keep his promises. And as soon as he became president, he changed his story on NAFTA. And now he agreed to renegotiate after talking with everybody. And I think the reason he did that is because NAFTA came from George Bush. And he was a fellow Republican, and he's a little bit softer on that stance. But TPP was 100% cooked up by Mr. Barack Obama, which in Donald Trump, as a very proud, successful billionaire businessman in the United States, maybe he won't say it, but I will. He doesn't know anything about business, and so anything cooked up by the politicians is a bunch of mumbo jumbo and nonsense. And so he's going to start over again. He's going to make it better. That's what he's thinking. And so if you read Donald's book, The Art of the Deal, he's setting himself up to trash his opponents, and he's going to come in and he will make, as a pro-business, probably the most pro-business president that I've seen since I've been alive. He's going to come in and try to make one of the best trade deals that mankind has seen. So you can mark my words. I think that's what will happen.
Professor Senior, given Professor Watanabe's view and also Bradley's view.
Mr. Watanabe, he's a liable point. I'd like to say my Japanese colleague to be patient. I think in 1 year or 2 years later, the United States will back to TPP. So I think just elected Mr. Donald Trump through TPP during the trash talk because he's essentially businessman. He's the businessman. He saw TPP is a bad economic deal. Job stealer, American job killer. But in reality, TPP has double edges for United States. First one, as he mentioned, this is a real bad. Maybe it's just a bad economic deal. But second one is more important. This TPP has some strategic arm of so-called U.S. pivot to Asia policy in hegemony game between China and the United States. So, as Edward Alden, the senior fellow of Council for Foreign Relations, mentioned, drafting the TPP weakened the U.S. geopolitical interest in Asia. It means that the United States abandoning TPP could allow China to hold a stronger military and geopolitical hegemony in Asia-Pacific economic integration. Fred Gross, an outstanding American economist in Peterson, emphasized big fields there. Creation of Asia-only economic bloc without U.S. participation under strong Chinese leadership, he thought it would be disaster. So in this sense, I sincerely hope President Trump will realize more and more not only economic importance of TPP, but also political importance of the TPP. Finally, lead to TPP. Most likely, it will take 1 or 2 years. This is my comment.
Professor, okay, given your comment, let me ask this question. Korea missed the opportunity to join as founding member of TPP. Yeah. Now, Professor Watanabe is saying that, okay, TPP will survive, will remain. And maybe by joining TPP at this stage, Korea should be able to push, some further locomotive power. What is your view on this? Korea joining TPP at this stage?
I think that this is so. This time, if Korea is invited, I think is better not only for Korea but also for Japan and China, also eventually United States. So later we'll talk of the CJKFTA. I think the CJFTA, Korea should play some intermediate role between two, Japan and China. Korea already have FTA with China, so Korea-Japan FTA is very, very difficult. But if Korea joins TPP and the US back to TPP move, Japan and Korea will have bilateral FTA under the umbrella of TPP. It's very nice for every country in East Asia.
Very good. And Ambassador Vikram, you see, the Professor Lawrence Summer, who used to be the secretary on the Clinton, I'm not sure which administration, he commented that the TPP without China, AIIB without the United States. Okay? These two institutions are only half-baked. It's not going to perform its full potential. Okay? So we can see a great rivalry between the China and the United States in the Asian, regionalism. Okay, given that, what would be India's position? Which way you'd like to see China and the U.S. work out and mapping out the regional trade architecture?
Thank you. To your question, first of all, about the AIIB, as you know, India is the second largest contributor to the AIIB. Like China, we share the view that the international financial institutions do not fully represent the interests of the new, really the more modern consensus after 1945. So obviously we see an interest in being part of some of this architecture from the get-go. TPP, as is well known, is problematic from our point of view. We have difficulties with the idea of standards that go beyond our existing WTO and WIPO commitments, in particular in intellectual property rights. But Rcep is for us the main game in town. We do have bilateral free trade agreements with our Korean friends, with our Japanese friends, with ASEAN, and we'll be talking with China also. But the Rcep would be one way in which we can put together many of these bits of architecture, including with our sort of oceanic friends, New Zealand and Australia, and get ourselves in at a broad multi-regional trading arrangement. The challenge, however, here, and I was listening to some of the earlier presentations in one of the earlier sessions, and Professor Malcolm was also there earlier, is the sense that that India is somehow reluctant to get on board this. Now, you need to look at this from the totality of what the trading arrangement is all about. The totality of the trading arrangement involves a single undertaking with gives and gets to be matched in goods, services, and investment. Now, quite obviously, the main set of gives that will have to be given in the RCEP format will have to come from India, as long as it is in goods. As far as India is concerned, and the rules allow for it, we can offer a certain rate to China, a certain rate of tariff concessions to the EU, to Australia, something else to Korea, etc., on the basis of our existing deals. Where we have a problem, however, is not so much with the offers that we're willing to make for goods, but with the absence of gets in services. Put this in perspective, our deficit in goods with the RCEP countries alone is in excess of $95 billion on goods. So, I heard Bradley here talk about the deficit that the US has with its major trading partners here. Imagine for a much smaller trading country what $100 billion approximately in goods deficit sounds like. In services, the same area where we're asking for more gets, we also have a deficit with the same RCEP countries. It's only about $1 billion. And our ask from our RCEP partners in services is actually quite modest. What we're asking is essentially for binding existing autonomous commitments. In other words, existing autonomous commitments under Mode 4, Mode 3 on services where you're talking about movement of persons for short-term professionals. Take, for instance, some of our IT services companies. I won't name the country, but they have investments and operations going in some of these Rcep countries, where for the placement of about 500 Indians on short-term visas, you essentially have up to 80,000 local employees. So for us, if these existing commitments on movement of people are being moved away from, it essentially means we get no gets for giving the maximum amount of gives in the Rcep. So that is not necessarily much of a deal for us. In this, actually, we see that we have much more in common, particularly in pressing for services with our Korean friends in the perspective of an Rcep, and even with China, where there is an opportunity for us to also export more services. So the essence of how a trade deal that has to be structured, as we see it, is that it must give us some sort of mutuality of gives and gets. We're prepared to give more space in goods, recognizing that we're not going to be a big gainer on goods exports. But there must be a fair amount of return that we get in finding existing commitments on services. You know, I mean, a number of countries have already gone back from existing commitments. And here I can name them because it's public knowledge. Just as you know, there is, I think it's called 451 visa in Australia. That is problematic for us. It's something that actually steps away from existing movements in Mode 4. We have in our free trade agreement with Singapore specific commitments on Mode 4. Those have now become politically sensitive in Singapore. So the point is, you know, we have our own political sensitivities too. So you can't have a situation where we have to take the pay and not get any gets in return.
Professor Wang, Brady mentioned that this China's trade surplus vis-a-vis the United States amounted to $350 billion, right? Whereas South Korea's trade surplus is only $27 billion. It's sort of a peanut size. And I know that the Chinese government economic policy now is shifting what we call the rebalancing, emphasizing a service sector and domestic economy orientation, right? And I think this China has any intention to trim down the China's surplus against the U.S. by intentionally importing more, and even the U.S. Trump mentioned that China should be designated as a currency manipulator, but he backed up that position. So, what is your view on this? And China is going to increase the import from the U.S. and how about the currency issues? How are you thinking about that?
Thanks, Professor Allen, for this question. So now getting back to President Trump, United States, the elephant in the room. Although you disappear, but you see here. So I think one thing, short answer to your question is that I think, of course, Chinese government very much will be committed to help to address the trade imbalance, including the deficits and everything. We understand that the trade now tops Mr. Trump's agenda. He says that, and he actually does that in his sort of daily, policy practice. We can see it very clearly. And one thing, there is an encouraging sign, actually. I think that during President Xi Jinping's summit meeting with President Donald Trump in Florida, I think back in April, the two presidents had a very, good meetings, and they, according to President Trump, they had chemistry between them, and they very much agreed that the two countries should work together on a wide range of issues, including on trade. So they started actually the negotiation, so-called 100-day plan, negotiating on a wide range of trade issues, including currency as well. And most recently, I think just a few weeks ago, there's an announcement. Announcement that shows the progress. I think they at least have achieved a dozen of agreement on a number of very specific issues goes to what kind of and this gets to the point you just made, which I very much agree. Those trade economic ties mean really reciprocity is the key, right, principle. So we can see, based on the list we have, you see very clearly, United States makes concessions on certain aspects, China makes concessions on certain categories, including we are now exporting beef again from the United States. So I think those are, we can see that in a real policy realm, I think the Chinese government is very serious about trying to address those issues. But of course, we also have to be aware of some of that probably is sort of structured, as you just mentioned, because at a different, in terms of the economic, the global division label, United States and China are really, generally speaking, are in a different position. That determines the structure of some of them. But there are many, I think, ways we can address that. Last thing I also want to mention is that for many, many years, China actually very much wanted the United States can open up its exports in high-tech area to sector to China. But I think throughout the Obama administration, the United States has been very resistant to that. We'll see with as Brad just mentioned that the Trump administration, I think, I believe fully is going to be perhaps the most pro-business administration in U.S. history. And we'll see whether or not, the Trump administration, President Trump himself, will see sort of brush aside some of the ideological related benefits and sees this as an opportunity to increase, create, more benefits, really more benefits to the United States and also, of course, to China as well, and in a very significant, substantive way to redress this trade imbalance issue.
Professor Watanabe.
Yes.
I always believe in that the TPP or Rcep or even China, Japan, Korea, CJK, FTAs. I mean, as you said in your written remarks, they are complementary each other, okay? And they should serve as building block toward the WTO multilateral regime. I 100% agree with you. And along with this, the China, Japan, and Korea, we have engaged trilateral, the first phase, FTA studies, and then actual negotiations. Okay, almost now two decades, we have very little progress. And you commented on Korea-China FTA, although has been effective now for 2 years, it's too shallow and so low quality, and the bilateral FTA in fact serves as sort of detrimental, the barrier for Japan to join CJK FTA. And then I thought, although it's very shallow, limited, but the thing is that the two economies they work it out, a bilateral FTA agreement. And I thought we set a good building, block for Japan later on to join the CJK, which will serve as linchpin for the East Asian economic integration. What is your view on this?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. CJK or JCK, KCJ, whatever, this trilateral FTA, I can characterize as a kind of missing piece of jigsaw puzzle. The jigsaw puzzle being the East Asian economic integration. So it's a very critical kind of misgiving in the making of East Asia free trade agreement. The China-Korea bilateral FTA has been negotiated in 2014, just before the Beijing summit of APEC 2014. And both government officials, negotiators from China and also from ROK, they were under very heavy pressure from their presidential offices. They wanted to show the results at least or at latest at this Beijing summit of APEC in order to counter the uprising of TPP. You see. So they were under very heavy pressure. So I think those negotiators, both from China and ROK, gave priority to conclude the negotiation rather than ameliorate the intent or content of the agreement. To the consequent, actually, around 71% of tariff lines are subject to tariff elimination in 10 years' time. And that is really one of the worst, well, I would say that is the worst FTA that Korean government have ever negotiated. Because your FTA with, Korean FTA with United States or with European Union, always very high degree of tariff elimination, and Japanese government try to learn from Korean experience. But unfortunately, with China, Korea have been somewhat sort of given up, gave up the idea of reaching high level of tariff elimination and just remaining in a very, as you say, shallow sort of results of market improvement, market access improvement. That's really pity, because you see, when you have a trilateral structure that already started back in 2013 as a negotiating structure, and the two of them, just get together and make agreement. I won't say gang up, but you made this agreement. If that's a high level, in terms of good making or market access improvement, then Japan can do a lot of effort. But like in the case of U.S.-Canada free trade agreement back in 1989, that was quite a good one. So Mexico wanted to join, and that made NAFTA agreement in 1994. Having U.S.-Canada agreement a very valuable one. But in this case, amongst three, Japan, China, Korea, unfortunately, this is not like that. So I think it is very difficult for JCK to move forward. I would think that Rcep is doing better because ASEAN has its own kind of sort of centrality awareness, ASEAN centrality. They have the ownership. So ASEAN leads this Rcep, not necessarily China. And as long as TPP makes a robust sort of progress, then Rcep can follow the path of TPP. And in this way, Rcep can improve its quality of market access improvement and rulemaking. But now the locomotive of TPP is sort of fading away, so the Rcep itself has kind of lost its own sort of momentum to go ahead. And particularly, I would say China has lost its sort of enthusiasm in Rcep, and providing more energy and resource to One Belt, One Road, which is by definition sort of bilateral deal. China being hub, and you have many spokes using financial resource of AIIB or BRICS Bank and so forth. So actually, the U.S. retreat from TPP has not only the influence on United States or U.S. relations with Asia-Pacific countries, but also entire architecture of regional integration structure, such as Rcep and JCK. So that's the intention why, that's the reason why Japan has renewed intention to move ahead with even TPP-1, with the understanding that United States understands our motivation to go ahead with, together with Australia, New Zealand, and other like-minded countries.
And thank you very much. Professor Seon, and President Moon Jae-in is going to meet Mr. Donald Trump. I don't know, within a month or something like that. And President Trump criticized effectiveness of the Korea-US FTA and saying that it's a bad deal. And although we have only $25 billion trade surplus, basically, if you look at the items, and it has really, outside of the concessional items, and in fact, the U.S. expansion of service sectors and automobiles in Korea increased very rapidly. Okay, how Korea should prepare for this Trump suggestion, or renegotiating or rewriting or whatever?
Nowadays I'm enjoying CNN, ABC, New York Times. Funny, will our president will Mr. Trump in next month or 10th, 10th? There are a lot of questions about investment in the United States. Anyway, so we must Korea, our president must send a soft signal to United States, President Donald Trump. Soft signal means that Korea should show some sincere effort to slash down our trade surplus in the United States. The problem is the question is that how Korea can slash down, reduce our trade surplus with the United States. There are several ways to increase more US-made part and component machinery, but I think that is an easy one. It's Korean companies who import. So there is good way. So shale gas, we are living in the era of shale gas revolution. Import shale gas from United States in a good way. As you know, Korea is totally dependent on Middle East or Southeast Asian shale gas, natural gas. We convert, diversify source of energy, so partially from Middle East or Middle East countries or Southeast Asian countries to United States, import shale gas. It is a very good way for energy security of Korea, also, but also lessening the trade tension between the United States and Korea. I am told from Korean government officials that they are sincerely considering to import shale gas from the United States.
Brady, the Trump really would like to bring all the U.S. multinational companies operating overseas, back home by exempting border tax or trimming down the corporate income tax. Do you think it's the right policy? And if U.S. multinational companies go back home and the U.S. is neglecting interconnectedness of global supply chain, if you wish really build up your competitiveness of manufacturing sector, what do you think about that?
The United States was very stupid in the past 20 years in how they managed the economy, and they watched multinational by multinational all shut down their factories. In fact, when I worked at Otis, that includes Otis, had a great factory in Indiana. They shut it down and moved it to Mexico, company by company. So now all these trade deficits are self-inflicted wounds a lot because there hasn't been a proactive approach with government and businesses to build a manufacturing sector together in the U.S. I think Trump wants to do that. But however, we talk about trade as if it's country against country, but let me tell you how multinationals work. And it's a lot more complicated subject than we're discussing today. I'm running an American company in Korea. We sell products by our American brand, Johnson Controls. Our end customer is in Northern Europe. And the products we make are assembled in Busan, in Korea, which we will get parts from Japan, Korea, and the UK. And the designs for our product are done in India. That's how multinational companies work. This isn't unique. We all work that way. So there's a lot of rhetoric about trade deficit and all this, and even TPP. If the United States is pulling out of there, not once have I heard one word internally in my company how that's going to affect our business. And I really don't see a movement of people protectionism and pulling out. In fact, our company, in 2 weeks, will be opening up a $100 million head office of Asia in Shanghai. So we don't have to deal with the United States anymore. We can make quicker decisions and work amongst ourselves in Asia. So, trade policies is interesting to talk about and, makes a lot of influence, but truly for a multinational company, it's an interlinked world which we cannot change. That's my opinion.
Excuse me, yes. I should like to make comment on what you said right now. I quite share your view, and precisely because of the reasons you mentioned, I certainly support the TPP. Because TPP is a kind of a continuation of keep the market liberalized. Because you see, the United States has been quite instrumental in bringing this open and multilateral trading system since the end of the Cold War, since the end of World War II. And through this Bretton Woods system, you have established the GATT, and you have also promoted the Kennedy round, Tokyo round, and subsequent Uruguay round negotiations. And precisely that was the United States who tried to introduce the idea of non-discriminatory trade, not only trading goods but also trading services, and also the intellectual property should be respected, and also that some prohibitive performance requirements in relation to investment should be precluded. So you see, the extent that you enjoy activities of multinationals, those are thanks to international negotiations, and largely those international negotiations have been initiated and promoted by the United States. So what we are talking about in TPP is just a continuation of the same direction. So maybe your activities in somewhere in Malaysia or in Vietnam could be still hampered by regulatory sort of things in the respective countries. So that's why in TPP we have introduced the provision of what we call state-owned enterprises. And question on competition policy has never been dealt with in the WTO. Therefore, we try to bring in the TPP negotiations. E-commerce can be facilitated enormously by the TPP. So it's all trying to further facilitate the business person like you and your companies. So that's the intention of the TPP. Thank you.
Vikram? Well, I think India has been following sort of inward looking, but the really greatly transforming India itself is outward looking. And then you need to go through a lot of the regulation process and so forth. As you said, India is major player in the Rcep. And now, then the Professor Watanabe is saying that okay, China is not really getting a lot of the driver's seat in Rcep movement, and let the ASEAN be a dominant player. Okay, so you agree with that view, and India still wish to stay on at the arm's length, let the ASEAN be a dominant player, pushing through the ASEAN movement?
Well, quite honestly, from what I understand, the last round of meetings that took place both at the ministerial level in Hanoi and one before that in the Philippines, the senior official level, we don't get a sense that China has actually stepped away from the Rcep. Yes, it's true that there are other players in ASEAN who are equally important, and fundamentally, as I think Professor Cook had earlier said, Rcep is still sort of centrally driven by ASEAN. It's not a Chinese enterprise, it's not an Indian enterprise, it's not a Japanese or a Korean enterprise either. Obviously, we, as I've been saying, this is, as far as we're concerned, this is the only big regional game in coming months. So obviously we're interested in moving this forward as quickly as possible. And I mean, the devil is in the detail in negotiating these things. But the broad package of compromises that need to be made is now, I think, reasonably well known among the negotiators. For obvious reasons, it's not publicized. But there is reasonable expectation that you could have an agreement with a reasonably high level of ambition. It would vary country to country. I know offers that each of us has made to the other is higher in some cases and lower in some cases. But those would also have to match bilateral agreements. For instance, our ongoing FTA with Japan would have to be matched in terms of the offers that we would give Japan in the Rcep. And our ongoing renegotiation of our trade agreement with Korea would have to also reflect what we offer you countries are in the Rcep. So, let me repeat the point that I made again earlier, that if there is to be a significant moment of new market access, particularly for goods in Asia today, it's not going to come in China, it's not going to come in Japan, it's not going to come in Korea, it's going to come in India. Because as you correctly pointed out, India is the one long-term holdout in terms of market expansion, opening up. Right? So if the goods market is to be opened up in Asia, it will be in India. And with the passage of a goods and services tax to create a unified market in India begins to come into effect from 1st July, you are actually going to see the need for every one of our major partners who want the Rcep to happen with a strong Indian participation in it. So I think irrespective of whether China is in the driver's seat or ASEAN is in the driver's seat or India can fill in the gap, this train has to move forward. And I think it's in everybody's interest to ensure that we get a good balance in it.
Yeah, Professor Wang, the China's One Belt One Road policy, many Asian neighbors is really worried about this is going to expand China's influence over Asian neighbors. Okay, and how the China is going to sort of try to mitigate that sort of although India, Korea, joined as a founding member of AIIB, you have any sort of plan and national policy? Okay, I mean this is not just simply to expand China's influence over the entire. You got to make it really international and public goods institutions, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Ann, for this very important question. And I think this also gets back to your previous question regarding what role China plays in terms of making rules, rules, etc. I think China, in that regard, actually shares a lot of views with India. When we look at the current existing institutions, international institutions, including the financial institutions, we do see there are a lot of deficiencies which cannot address the needs, not presenting the interest of the rising emerging economies, including India and Japan. And this is precisely, and plus there's the need, objective need, in like trillions, at least like 8-10 trillions of demand for infrastructure investment in Asia, in the region going forward in the next coming decades. So all this put together, I think China took the initiative in sort of establishing the AIIB. But let me say, make this very clear, AIIB is not China's bank. It is all of us. It's everyone's bank. It's truly the kind of public goods that everyone can get to benefit from that. And that's precisely the reason why I think AIIB is so much welcome and embraced by so many members of the international community across the world. So, and this also gets to the Belt and Road Initiative. We have just had this Belt and Road Summit in Beijing. One thing I want to emphasize is that I understand the concern about the geopolitical, geostrategic implications of Belt and Road Initiative, but at the heart of that, essentially, it is the idea of improved connectivities across the world, right? So when we look at all those very wealthy countries, many of that, I think, in fact, there's also where AIIB, the Infrastructure Investment Bank, they will be looking to put investment in. So I think one experience China really wants to share with the world is if we say there is a China success story, I think one key to that success story is that we really put a lot of efforts to take care of infrastructure. So there's a saying in China, literally translated as, if you want to get rich, build a road. And I think India and all many other partners around the world, we're actually practicing that. So we want to share, because China now, we have this capability, but of course we want to in return, and also try to provide a lot more public goods to the world. So that's why President Xi also emphasized that provision of global public goods is also very important part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So what we want to achieve at the end of the day is a win-win. Everyone getting benefit rather than China, throwing its weight around Trump was dominating the whole world. I think, please allow me to say this, Gary. I think the world is already fed up with one American hegemony, and they do not want another one, and therefore China is not in the mood to become another American hegemony.
Yeah, sure. Just a small addition. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And since I have a flight to catch, I'm a little extra sensitive about that point. But just very quickly, I wanted to agree with my Chinese friend, slightly disagree with him also on this point. One, on the point about new institutions, new financial institutions, as I already said, this is important and this is something that we strongly support with money up front. On the OPOR, the One Belt and Road, there is, however, concerns that we voiced about both the mechanism and the consultative process that we were keen to have with China on it, especially because it had segments of it that were of not just theoretical but direct sovereignty-related concerns. So, these there is still, I think, space open for a better discussion between partners on something.
Okay, good.
I fully agree with that.
My friends, we are running out of time, but let me give you, each panel members to say what you would like to say, which you missed during our conversation. Maybe each panel for 1 minute. Okay, maybe Professor Watanabe, you may start.
Thank you for your very generous 1 minute. I'd like to just reiterate that multilateralism is very important, and in the field of trade, I think trade multilateralism embodied in WTO should be respected, because here the all the nationalities present here in the panel and also in the room, I would think that we are all members to WTO, and in that light, WTO is a kind of step forward to further reinforcing the WTO. Thank you very much.
Okay, Professor Anzelian.
I think we, China, Japan, Korea, not just India, make a common effort for shared prosperity in Asia-Pacific economic integration. Actually, there are two flags. One is Asia flag, Rcep, TJKFTA, Asia-Pacific TPP. So our fundamental job is to avoid the divergence between two flags. We must raise effort to shape both flags in complementary. Also, my final is let United States back to regional.
It's my pleasure discussing with such a diverse group here and learning from all you guys. It seems like a little bit embarrassing as an American that the new president is such a controversial figure. Even Americans have a difficult time understanding. But one thing I do know is the Trump rally. There are two kind of rallies going on. People on the streets, but the rally on Wall Street is continuing. I checked my portfolio this morning and it's making me smile very much. I mean, the stock market, which is an indicator of business and the economy, seems to be showing that business conditions will improve. So, let's hope it does.
Okay. Vikram?
Just a quick last point. I think one thing which we didn't cover at all on this is the larger question of what we do about the larger global structure of trade. We talked about regional and multi sort of polar trading arrangements, but the move away from the World Trade Organization, the effort to create standards that everybody can accept, is still a work in progress. So I think maybe subject to a future debate, but this is something that the world also needs to give attention to. You can't really have a patchwork world of rules that work at some levels and rules that work at other levels.
Professor Wang?
Thank you, Professor Sam. Very quick, last word.
I think what I want to say that I think in a time when there's rising uncertainty in the world, I think we all the more need to provide more predictabilities in our policies, in our actions. And I fully agree with the panelists just suggest that we should also embrace regionalism. I think this is the only way every one of us, India, United States, South Korea, Japan, China, we all work together And this is how we can provide the most important forces for, altogether get out of the economic recession, global recession, and provide a robust basis for long and sustainable economic recovery and development.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are living in the age of the fourth industrial revolution, in which interconnectedness, cross-border linkages are the crucial element, B2B or e-commerce. Therefore, President Donald Trump will revisit TPP, and he's going to revive ongoing the regionalism in Asia Pacific toward a WTO plus in the long run. Okay, let us hope that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our discussion, and I believe our distinguished panelists, including moderator, deserve the big hands.